Hey guys,
Hi.
Hey.
it's great to have you here on the Food Founders podcast and get to talk about your guys' business.
Excited to be here.
Very excited.
So I'm gonna take a stab at this, but you guys are Revol Snax, and you're aiming to satisfy sweet cravings without sugar. And so
That's right.
for me, what that means is you guys are a snack company, and you're making keto, paleo, and low sugar products. You've got some, you'd look to do more.
Exactly. That's
Wow.
that's exactly who we are.
Good, fantastic, got it right on the first try. So let's just start with some quick introductions. So if you just want to introduce yourself, what's your title, and we'll get going.
Yeah, I'm Dave. I am one of the co-founders of Revol Snax and the CEO and all things founder involved in operations.
And I'm Nadine, and I'm also the co-founder, and I'm the director of partnerships.
Awesome, very cool. And so you guys are co-founders and partners in this business. And a lot of folks that we work with, aren't starting as a partnership, or they're not a partnership. So how did you guys get to meet each other? And we'll kind of work through this, but the kind of story of starting this business. But first, just how'd you meet each other?
It's a funny story, and we're gonna give you like the highlight version because it has many details. But basically, we met through mutual friends. While I was studying English in Georgetown, taking classes there, and Dave was kind of like
Had
one
just
night.
moved to Washington, D.C., starting my first job out of college. And long story short, we were tag-alongs on a blind date. Mutual friends who had met in one of the online dating apps and didn't want to meet each other like without one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so we happened to be the two that they brought along as the extras. Funny that because their date went terribly and ours was like hitting it off. And then,
It worked out for us.
yes.
Yeah, you guys
Not for
dated,
them.
start a business, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And here we are.
And here we
Awesome.
are.
So we talked a little bit about background, but so you were working. What were you doing?
I was a
for us?
biomedical engineer, had FDA. So yeah, working in the medical device space.
Okay,
Yeah.
very cool.
And I was working as a Spanish teacher. Just my first job here in the United States. Fresh out of college, kind of trying
Yeah.
to find my path to.
What were you studying in school?
I started industrial engineering.
Okay, so two engineers of sorts,
Yeah, but food lovers though.
food lovers.
That's,
Yeah, and I think that's a great part of your story. We were talking about that earlier. So you guys met, and you had a passion for food.
yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we both, after we met, we both realized that one, we didn't know how to cook good
I was
meals.
making frozen pizzas every day.
Yeah.
Anything else you can pull out of the freezer aisle, I
Yeah,
tried.
he was very good at that.
And it wasn't impressive to her, so I had to figure it out.
But yeah, and I was like making smoothies and nothing very nutritious and
Sugary smoothies.
sugary smoothies, as David called him, and everything I was eating was low fat actually. So
Okay.
we were like, when we started learning about keto, that changed very quickly after that. But basically, our parents and David's family, we had some family members that had struggled with diet-related disease in the past, and we knew like if we didn't pay attention to what we were eating, we will end up, like my dad or like people that we knew and loved. So we took a step into, like being in charge of our diet, learning, informing ourselves, and learning how to cook, like
Yeah.
in a good way, kind of.
Yeah.
Healthy.
So yeah, curious about like learning how to do things for ourselves. And we were getting really interested in this low carb keto movement through podcasts, other things we were paying
And when is
attention
this?
to.
Is this?
That's
2016,
20
2017.
2016, 2015.
So people are starting to learn
Yeah.
about that sort of stuff then.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which was in contrast to like a lot of the diet advice out there. And,
Yeah, when you told me I should stop buying low fat yogurt, I was very shocked. I was like, wait, but everything is supposed to be low fat, like
Right.
my yogurt, my cheese, and then he's like, no, this is the keto diet tells you to
And then we're
eat
gonna
high
put
fat.
coconut oil in the coffee, and
Oh
then
my
she
God.
really that was a tough
terrible.
one to get over.
That is a tough. My doctors told me I gotta do lower fat. Yeah.
I know. Well, you kind of like make the relationship between healthy and low fat. So when someone tells you no, actually to eat healthier, you actually need to incorporate healthy fats. It's very shocking if you're not familiar with that. So that was like a big change for us, but we did it. And
Yeah, so really we were just kind of experimenting and started feeling better, like less sugar, less like processed carbs, less frozen pizza,
more whole foods.
Yeah, more
Well,
whole foods.
I actually think this is a really important thing kind of in the entrepreneurial journey, because you guys are entrepreneurs, right? And you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've journeyed towards it. And I hear this all the time from others, and it's that moment when you realize that things that you knew maybe weren't right,
Yeah.
and you didn't like it,
Yeah.
and you started to try doing something different.
Different. Yeah.
Right, and that's an important step in that. You're like, okay, well, we're gonna do this keto thing. That other stuff we've heard isn't right because we're doing keto and
Yeah.
we feel good.
Good. Yeah, and especially after we realized that like there was nothing in the grocery stores that we could buy that we were able to fit in the diet. Like it was very hard, and we both have sweet tooth. Like we like sweets and treats and desserts, and we had to make everything from scratch. And we're like, we don't always have the time to make everything. Like we wish there was something that we could go to a grocery store and get that healthy, low sugar, low carb dessert. And that's when it clicked to us that okay, well, later after, but we started experimenting our kitchen, making the dessert for ourselves. And after like a year or so, we kind of thought that could be a good idea that other people.
So you have this realization, that drives you to keto, maybe something better, something different. Then you have this problem, and you feel it acutely. It's your life, and so then you start working on like a personal solution for it.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah. Essentially, we started just researching all the food bloggers out there. Like, there's this like keto community out there, and like other people have sweet cravings. So how are they doing it? And we just started learning mainly about the non-sugar sweetener space, like that ingredient stack that is out there. And there's been a lot of developments, I think, in the last 5 or so years, 10 years, that have enabled like these really delicious, sweet flavor profiles that don't have all the sugar that is traditionally used to make a brownie, a cookie, ice cream, all those things.
Yeah.
And so you can buy these things on Amazon back in 2016, and so that's what we were doing, and just making stuff at home. And we're like, this is amazing. Like this tastes almost as good as
anything else.
things that we were having and loved previously.
I'm impressed you had things that tasted amazing at first. I would imagine you just had terrible things at first.
There's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. But quickly afterwards, it was like, wow, this is good. Like we don't miss the sugars desserts anymore.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can just kind of swap directly with sugar for these other types of ingredients, and it doesn't always work out perfectly, but they're good enough that you can make something that tastes pretty good at home.
Decent.
That's what you did.
That's what we did. And then that's how the mousse, the first product, like our idea for the mousse was the dessert that we really worked on for like a year, developed the recipe, tweaked things, experimented with like shelf life and expiration dates.
And just to be clear, you came up with a chocolate mousse that was low sugar or no sugar.
Yeah. No sugar, coconut based, so it was plant based, paleo, like all the like the 3 things that we really stand for, which are like low carb, paleo, meaning clean ingredients, and plant based. So that was kind of our first idea, like our first product to be.
That's right.
Until we met you.
That's how we met you guys, right?
That's
You
right.
came and you said, hey, we've been doing this thing and no one makes it, and this must be a great idea for a business.
Exactly. And then we presented to you our baby mousse idea that we've been working on for a year, and 2 other ideas that we kind of put together 2 nights before. We're like, okay, let's give them options, but we're pretty sure they're gonna choose the mousse because we've been working on that mousse for a year. And then you and Elena were like, the mousse actually is not the good option. Let's go with the bites. And then we were like, okay, let's work on that recipe. But it all worked out. It's just funny to think about how much time we put into developing the recipe for the mousse, and we went with like something completely new for us.
Well, I think that's such an important theme in being an entrepreneur and starting a business, especially in the stuff we do, like food for consumers, is you can have all the ideas in the world. You can work so hard, and no one really cares at the end of the day. They just care, do they want it or not want it?
Yeah.
And so for us, we're like, well, mousse is hard. Yeah. And that was your first time.
And it was not shelf stable. And shipping, we didn't know. We were like so...
And we wanted to be an e-commerce company.
Yeah. And we were not being realistic. So you were there to, be, okay, we need to,
Yeah, we don't want you to kill anyone.
Yes, exactly.
That's always been important to me. Okay, cool. So we send you away and say, Jesus, terrible idea, but thanks for trying. And you come back with these bites.
Yeah.
That is kind of the core of the company right now, right?
Yeah.
That's right,
okay.
Yeah. We were inspired, I think, by some other companies, not in the low carb or keto space, but doing these kind of dessert type of bite products that we were finding in Whole Foods or other kind of natural food channels.
Yeah.
And we thought we could do something like this that tastes really good and but without the sugar.
Yeah.
So
describe the bite.
So we make a line of nut butter filled coconut bites. They're in 4 flavors now. The initial idea was just a chocolate kind of almond butter stuffed bite, almost like a Reese's cup, but less candy, form. More in like an energy bite format.
Yeah.
And we're coming at it from like a luxurious dessert. These things not on the market. There's a gap, and like we want to be able to give people that indulgence without all the sugar and refined carbs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
then we developed 3 other flavors. We wanted to launch with 4, and then after that we developed the double dark chocolate, snickerdoodle, and matcha latte.
Yeah.
They go with the chocolate almond butter one. That's the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. What's your favorite one?
Mine, double dark.
I'm also a double dark chocolate. Unless in the mornings I'll go with matcha.
Yes.
Nice. And the matcha's the newer one, right? Or no?
Matcha and snickerdoodle are kind of like,
Yeah.
Well, they're very good, and every time someone who's experimenting or learning about keto, they basically start with you guys.
Oh, that's
you're like the entree into it.
That's right. That's our mission.
I think
to make it easier for everybody,
Yeah, I remember we had someone on the team, Andrew, was basically eating like 5 packs a day at one point.
Yes, I remember. We don't recommend that though. Have to advise that. No, don't try at home.
Yes, you've heard it here. Don't do that. 1 pack.
Yeah, 1 pack. One judge.
But every day.
That's right.
And get a subscription.
Yes,
that's right.
It's cheaper.
All right, cool. So anyways, you figure out the products. And everyone's like, yeah, this actually does work. It's something that exists in the market already, bites. Mm-hmm. It's in a format that is manufacturable. At least there's a line of sight towards it because again, others are doing it. Mm-hmm. Clearly, there's evidence that this is something people want. Mm-hmm. Except you guys are also answering the problem of sugar and diet and those things. And so boom, you've got this product. And you launch. Of course, you're going to launch it with us.
Yes.
But so just tell me a little bit about kind of getting it into a package, and then with us, and then I kind of want to talk about getting other people to buy it.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So going from we've got the product, getting it into a package that you could actually sell.
Yeah.
How was that? Did that take you like a day? Did it take you a year? I mean, what was that process?
It took a few months to.
Yeah, this is really, and thinking about partnerships, something that I would have been very bad at, but Nadine was very good at. And I think she has an intuitive sense of design and or the network of people to go to make something look really nice from a design packaging perspective. And so, it probably took us a couple of months with iterations with the designer, but relatively quickly we were able to go from, we think we have a good product, now let's put a package around it and get it on a grocery store shelf.
First logo, then packaging, like the process that you go into. But of course, like as we were telling you early, like the first time without really knowing how the product will behave from like going from unit kitchen where we make it to like actually the shelves of the grocery stores. So many things we didn't know about the product and so many things went wrong, and it was a good learning experience because, for example, the packaging, we wanted people to be able to see into the product, and that was a bad idea.
Because you could look into it and it would be smudged,
yes.
and like maybe like greasy.
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
And matcha turns this nasty gray color when it's exposed to
light.
So.
And then they were gray matcha bites, and we're like, what's happening? And then we have to research, and matcha is very sensitive to the light, and we're like, okay, we need to remove the window ASAP. And then we also realized that they needed a tray to hold the shape. That was very important, and those changes were happening, as we were learning, but
they're
definitely
happening quickly.
Yeah,
I think that's really important. You guys didn't wait a year.
Oh no.
You saw
months.
Changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't want people to, because we launched locally in just a few stores. That was like a good thing instead of just going like huge.
Yeah.
Just like having that the fact that like it was easy for us to implement changes and just, for example, order 2,000 bags at a time and or less.
Yeah.
And it was more expensive that way, but also that was what allowed us to make those changes on time.
It gives you the confidence to constantly change as you listen to the market.
Yes.
Right? Because you make this product, we've said this before, you make a product and you go to market. And no matter what you think, no matter how hard you've worked, it's up to the market now.
Exactly.
And they were showing you these things. And some were obvious, like the window. Some were less obvious, like how they were stacking or how people were eating them or how they were storing it when they took it home.
Yeah, or a lot of people didn't know what they were. So it took us a lot of like many iterations to get the wording right. Because although, for example, we had coconut bites in the front, maybe it wasn't the right size, and people that didn't like coconut will like try them and they'll be, oh my gosh, this has coconut in it, and like they didn't like them, and we're like, well, they're coconut bites, like you have to read it, but maybe it wasn't like the right size, so it's not their fault. It was kind of like us learning about what is the first thing you see when you see the packaging. But
exactly, that's a fun thing I think about in this entrepreneurial journey again, like the process of creating and knowing, but then you have to be humble to just stop what's in your head and just listen. It doesn't matter if you think they should know it says coconut bites. What matters is, do they know? And how do you redesign for the user, for their experience? And that's great. And you guys did a great job of iterating that over, month by month, step by step.
Totally, and it still changes though. We still learn. Now that it's the summer, we have a new bag that has a little kind of sticker, not really sticker, but it's in the bag, it's in the design that says that they melt at high temperatures, so please refrigerate them. You're always learning. Now that we're learning from shipping them, which is like another side.
Another challenge.
Well, so that actually brings me, I want to talk about, which is sales, right? We've talked a little bit, but so you make the product and you go to market and you put it on Unit Kitchen shelves, and we get to learn. That's one part of learning, but you have to be on other shelves. You have to compete against other markets and engage with other customers. What were kind of the first things or the first stores that you sold into? And I love hearing that story of your first sale.
Definitely start local, because that's always going to be a little nudge in your direction. And, we got into Whole Foods pretty early on in our trajectory, and that pitch was very much like almost Shark Tank style of you're in an office room around a big table and pitching to a corporate team. And so I think we practiced on you guys at Unit Kitchen first, and made sure we were hitting all the things. And then, we got into Whole Foods, but that's really just the start, right? Because then you got to go one by one and pick off these, each individual store. And so learning how to talk to buyers, learning how to even walk in and find out who the buyer is, or even to know to ask for a buyer in general.
Yeah.
Those were all things that we learned.
As we, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then you also were selling into other places like coffee shops.
Oh yeah,
right?
Compass Coffee.
Yeah.
Was a big one. That night the night that we got into Compass, we kind of remember that we were, at the beginning, of course, we were making everything ourselves, like including the bites.
So you're in the facility, you're
working at night.
We're just
It's late
manufacturing.
1 a.m.
It's 1 a.m. Right?
Pressing
That's an important
bites.
detail. It's 1 a.m. You're pressing bites, you're making them, getting it done. You're working during the day.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Come in here at 6 p.m. and stay until 2 a.m. That was kind of
There
our
we go.
schedule.
Yeah,
there we go.
And then Michael from Compass comes in and he's like, "What are those?" And we're like, give him a sample. And we're like, "We're just making these bites. They're keto, blah, blah, blah." And he happened to be into the keto diet at the time.
That's right.
And he's like, "Oh wow, these are pretty good." And you know, when you meet someone that actually understands the struggle of getting something that tastes good without sugar, it's like love, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
I get it. And he's like, "Okay, maybe we can sell these at Compass." And that's how we got into Compass afterwards. And they've been great
and found
partners
out
for
that
us.
they do great in coffee shops, and people love having a sweet snack with their coffee.
Oh yeah, it's
So,
perfect for that
Yeah.
setting, and it sells well. And I love that story. There's a lot of questions about what Michael's doing at 1 a.m. But-
Here.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like when you're in community and you're a network of people and to
Yeah.
local, right?
Yeah.
Things happen that don't happen on the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they don't happen across the country. And I think that's one of the best ways as you're trying to get started, just the collisions that happen within a local group. And then so yeah, you're in Whole Foods, you're in Compass, and you're growing this business as you're selling to retailers of all types.
Yeah.
Yes, and getting different feedback, because the feedback that we would get from the coffee shops was not the same one as the one that we were getting from the grocery stores.
That's
and
great, yeah.
But we quickly, like, we knew that we wanted to be an e-commerce brand. So as soon as we thought that we were ready to kind of like, you know, launch our website, we put like a plan on place. Like, we draft our plan and we decided to do the Kickstarter to make that happen.
So you're selling in retail, it's going well, you're learning a lot, and you see that there's this, you know, community that's just begging for the stuff. And
Yes.
they're not just here.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just going to Compass and
Exactly.
Kitchen, Whole Foods. So e-commerce, Kickstarter. Kickstarters are hard.
Oh gosh, so much work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, all the work happens before you launch the Kickstarter.
Before, during, and after. Yeah, but a lot of work that we knew, kind of the work that we needed to put into to make it happen, but I feel like it was more.
Yeah, but we were using the Kickstarter kind of as like a proof of validation that
The people wanted
there was
it.
a market for this beyond just our local retail community. And so we were going to the Kickstarter very much with like an experimental mindset, but doing all the work that's needed to make something like that successful, all the marketing and you know, leading up to it. And yeah, we were approaching that to say, we know this group of people out there. Do we have a product that's going to solve a problem for them and that they're willing to, you know, split with their money for? And so yeah, that was right at the beginning of 2019.
Okay,
So
cool.
we're about a year into
Yeah.
this retail kind of nights and weekends experiment that
Yeah.
Revol Snax was at the time.
So just to put the timeline back on that, so 2016 you guys are learning about keto.
Yeah.
2018
We
you
know.
guys start this business,
Yeah.
launch it,
Yeah.
and you market, and then 2019 you turn it online.
Yes.
That's right.
Nice.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And then the Kickstarter was a successful Kickstarter. We surpassed our goal, which was like a big kind of like affirmation for us. You know, you as an entrepreneur always like doubt yourself a lot. Like, I don't know, I feel like we were having a lot of moments like, are we doing the right thing? Is enough people believing in our idea, or is all just us and our friends and family?
Yeah.
But that was like a big like high five, you know, and it's one of our proudest moments probably, just like how hard we worked on that and make it successful and actually surpassing the goal. And after that we launched the website, and we were able to, maybe after 3 months, start like actually receiving, we were always sold out after that because we didn't have the production capacity sustain the orders after that. So that was like also a big learning experience. Like we're like, oh, now we have to do schedules for our employees because now we actually have orders coming every day. Before it was like, okay, we got a PO from these stores. Let's work 2 nights per week.
Yeah.
Make kind of like whenever we feel like, and come to the kitchen, hang out. One shift will take us like 8 hours to do what we're doing like an hour.
Yeah.
But eventually we figure it out. And
so sales grow, which then drives the next set of challenges of how to manufacture and how to build and run a company. Like it's not just you guys coming and like doing the thing at night yourselves. It's, holy crap, we have to build a plan, hire people.
We need help us up.
Yeah.
We're like
interestingly, as we were preparing for Kickstarter, there's a lot of like you got to prepare a video, you have to have content now to put on Instagram and all of that in order to market yourselves. And we had a friend who was a videographer, and we always start with friends first when we need something. And they came to the kitchen one of the nights that we were working to take pictures that we could upload for Kickstarter, and it turned out his wife also came with him, and she was like, it looks like you guys like need an extra hand like doing all these molds, like do you want me to just help you for a few minutes? We're like, that would be great, like thank you so much. And then fast forward like 3 months later, she and our videographer became our first 2 employees.
We offered them the full-time job after a year. Like they were also going to their day job
and working at night with you guys.
And working at night from 6 p.m. They were leaving at 11 because they were like, okay, we really value sleep. I don't know about you guys, but we do value our sleep, so we're leaving, and we will stay here and until 2 a.m. But eventually we were able to. Those were our 2 first hires.
Yeah. So these stories are kind of mirroring, right? You developed a product kind of bit by bit, and then you learned how to make it bit by bit. Then you sold it bit by bit, little bits to more.
Yes.
And then you kind of built a team bit by bit, right? Like, all right, let's go. Like videographer, it's time to make bites. And then I kind of want to talk about like your manufacturing, because you were making this tabletop style, right? And then you transitioned, and you can tell us about that, but from tabletop to batches to larger batches to now machines.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So let's talk about that manufacturing, that growth, that iteration, because this I think is so scary for folks, because everyone kind of understands the idea of selling and the internet and marketing, and kind of gets the idea of making a product. But man, everyone's so scared of manufacturing. So I'd love to kind of talk about how you went from making them at night on a table, like hand pressing them, and where you are today, which is you're using some pretty awesome machines and you're making a lot of bites. So walk us through that journey. What are kind of like the major transformations you took from that tabletop to kind of continuous production?
Yeah, so we started out making these in silicone molds. I think they're probably used to make like truffles at home. And we've taken a very kind of piecewise approach to manufacturing. So it was always kind of like, what's the one next small piece of equipment that we could do, or get something made that will help kind of resolve a bottleneck, in whether it's pressing the bites or packaging them or filling them with the nut butters in the middle.
I love that you're always trying to find the bottleneck. Because that's the thing to solve. Right? What's the bottleneck? Let me solve that. Then what's next?
Then what's the next bottleneck?
Totally. So for the first probably 18 months, or at least for the first year, we were pressing each bite by hand with these cocktail muddlers in these silicone molds. And
like for making mojitos.
Exactly. And everyone's arms would be very sore after every shift, and there was no more, like we had a hard limit on how many we could do, really, because people was like, we're getting sore by the end of the shift. And so we knew we had to figure that part out. That was an obvious one, like physically pressing our base to form these bites. And so one of the kind of the first major upgrade that we had manufacturing wise and like equipment wise was transforming a like a pizza dough press into something that had this custom plastic mold on it with little cylinder kind of pieces on it that matched the molds we were using.
Yeah.
And so one press of this dough press was now doing 63 bites at a time, which is a huge upgrade from
so going from one to 63.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Totally.
Industrial revolution.
Yeah. And so, I had a friend from college whose family is in the plastic manufacturing business, and he was able to make this like CAC, some sort of like removing plastic from a big block to create a custom molded piece. And so he was able to help us out with that. We got that in and like fastened it to this pizza press that we bought off eBay.
Yeah.
And that honestly it got us a long ways.
Yeah.
We were running with that for at least a year.
Yeah.
And increased our production capacity by 5x at least.
And then we got the filling machine.
Yeah.
A little filling machine.
A little filling machine that's used to, I believe that's also in the truffle industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as you're going through this, you do have to kind of respect like the traditional industry. What are pieces of equipment that people are using, and how do you adapt that to your product?
Yeah. Totally.
So we've always kind of been trying to
do that.
Learn what's out there, and then how can we adapt that to our product. And so the truffle industry, for example, has been one where there's been a lot of overlap, and we were able to use some things. And fast forward to today.
We bought the machine.
Early 2021, we purchased our first major piece of machinery. It's called a co-extruder, and so it's taking the bites and the filling and basically forming these cylinders and cutting the bites at the perfect size and rolling off a conveyor belt right into our trays now, which is like amazing for us to see because in our minds we have all these pressing each bite one by one, and so
filling them and topping them. There were so many parts in the process, and now gone. Press a button.
Yeah.
Sip beer. I'm kidding.
Well, it's an amazing thing because you had to go through all of those steps to really understand that you needed this machine to do it this way. Because if you guys were to buy a machine in 2018, who knows what you would have bought?
Oh, well, Dave at some point was about to buy the sausage the machine.
Oh, right.
All right.
A big extruder.
Yeah, well, in our desperation to find like the right piece of equipment before we knew about rayon, we were like, okay, what can we adapt to our bites? And we were like so desperate kind of that we really wanted something soon, and Dave had the idea or something like that, like the sausage machine.
Yeah, we were talking about getting two big extruders, one for the filling, one for the bite, the outer part, and combining them together. And it was just a really expensive and kind of complicated solution. But we didn't know what we didn't know.
There's a lot of bad decisions we can make.
I know.
And when we are iterative and go bit by bit, you
Yeah.
can cancel those ones out and move closer to a better decision.
I know.
And I think you guys made a great decision with the rayon machine because it's producing a better product.
Yeah.
No one's arms are sore, I don't think. It's a lot of button pressing. And you're able to just make so much product, and you can really grow the business with this solution.
The challenge with the machine, though, was adapting our recipe for the handmade process to the machine-made process. Completely different recipes. It took about a month to figure out the new recipe. And it's a lot of iteration, and like the recipe never seems to actually hold steady for too long before we actually have to make new changes. So it's like
it's continuous.
Here we go again.
Well, I love that, and you guys are basically experts in iterating and continually improving because you've been doing it for years now. Right, and you're confident. That you can figure it out. I love that. I think that's it. All right, so you guys you're selling a whole bunch. You've built a team of manufacturers and other folks. You have badass machine that allows you to grow significantly and allows you to have a plan to grow even more from that, right? And so that's kind of where you're at. And then you guys you're raising money right now as well.
Gotcha.
Well, that's a fun thing. So what are you valuing the company at?
At $5 million pre-money.
Cool. That's a good place to be in. It's a great milestone. Very cool. So you're a $5 million company. You've solved all these things. You have a great kind of trajectory for the next year or 2 years to grow this.
Yes.
Be more than 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. So that's an awesome place to be. Great milestone. I kind of want to talk about, and kind of wrapping up the conversation, the things that you're most proud of. Like, what's the big win?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is just like, well, it's been hard. Yes, that's kind of the point. But what's been the most challenging thing? So let's start with which one do you want to start with, the win or the challenge?
Let's start with the challenge.
Let's
get that out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, well, for me personally, the biggest challenge is like the company goes from this, side project that we're literally making them to now we have a manufacturing team and people underneath us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like prioritizing what you're working on and that transition from inside of the business, doing all the operations, all of the manufacturing to now kind of working on the business and growing sales and marketing and branding. And there's so many things you can be doing.
Yeah.
And you have to narrow in on what's most important now and what's going to be moving the needle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that we meet regularly and talk between the two of us to try to guide each other into where should we be spending our time on right now. It's something all entrepreneurs have, and it's a good challenge to have, and it's inevitable when your business kind of evolves over time.
What's amazing, what made you start the business has to transition to what makes you good at growing the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then that has to transition into what makes you good at really managing the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then building teams and working on the business. And those are so different. The amount you have to change as the business grows is tremendous. It's fascinating, and it's hard. And a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, everyone struggles with it.
Yeah.
And some people make it through the struggle and succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys have done a great job at that. But it'll continue to be hard.
Of course.
We know that.
Biggest win?
Yeah, biggest win.
Okay.
What are you most proud of?
I feel like one of our proudest moments was definitely getting into Whole Foods and Erewhon, like those two stores. As also with like the Kickstarter. I feel like those three actually gave us like the confidence that we needed in order to know and be sure that we were the right people to kind of like grow this business, and that we actually had a good idea that many other people wanted. And that part, because you always like doubting yourself and like, is this the right thing to do right now? And so that was very good that we were able to get that.
Totally. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I also think, it's always impressive to be able to build a partnership and go through those changes and maintain the relationship and be successful in the business, but also in life. So I think that's a pretty big win. You can be proud of.
True.
Totally.
Yeah, that we're still together. That's
Yeah, going through the hard things. That's good. It's the
Yeah.
best, actually.
Yeah, learning how to manage our time together as a couple, and setting that aside with like how to manage our time as co-founders. Like sometimes that is very mixed together, and it's like part of like what we're learning, and it's been a fun thing. It's definitely challenging, but also you earlier asked me like, do you think you need like a partner? And I was kind of telling you that definitely I feel like having each other has made this so much better for us, has made us like stronger, and I honestly don't know if either of us would have pursued this path by ourselves. Maybe yes, we don't know, but definitely having each other is like very important, and it's something that we value a lot.
Oh, it's powerful. And you guys have done great. Well, thanks for chatting today. I think this is an awesome conversation. A lot to learn from it, a lot of kind of lessons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Congrats on everything. Good luck on the next steps. There's much more to do, but you guys are well positioned for it.
We're ready.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Bye, guys.